All right, all right, all right. We are live, and what a very special, very highly anticipated show, at least for me. Probably everyone else didn't really know about it because I just shared it about 40 minutes ago, but I've been waiting for this one. We're talking Mortal Worlds with the lovely couple from Double Vision Comics, and that is Michael and Caroline. How are you going, guys?
Excellent.
Hello.
Hi.
Hail.
Of course, we've got Smiling Bandito here.
Yes. Welcome to
In
the
the
show,
mix.
Caroline and Michael. Great to
Thank
have
you.
you guys.
Absolutely. Very good to have you. You just saw a bit of the trailer there, and we are going to be talking about that amazing looking sci-fi, crazy LSD acid trip book that you've got. But we've also got some people turning up here. So we've got, who have we got here? Devilfish is here. Hal Devilfish. Mo Biggs. I see you're in there, Caroline. Hello. Nice to see that. Magic Turtles here. How you going? Justin's here. Justin McClure. He wants to know where Mo Biggs been. He's been here. He's been here. Oh, I'm not going to say any F words because my daughter might be listening. But Captain Fckhead is here. How you going, buddy? Good to see you. I believe. What's that? Sorry, Caroline.
It's late for Cap. He's in the same time zone as us, so it's.
Oh God, yes. I've got to explain. You know, these guys are from London, United Kingdom, and it is currently just clocked over 4 a.m. in the morning. So a very extra special thank you for getting up and coming on the show at this ungodly hour.
You guys are up way past your bedtime.
Or
Yeah,
early.
We
It depends on how you look at it at this point, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
People are saying, sorry.
Looking forward to doing the show, so that brightened us up a little bit.
That's right. That's right. That's right. People are saying hello in the chat, howling each other. Antoine Dennison's here. We love him. Nemesis. Who we got here? All right, that's what's going on. You've just been busy. We get busy sometimes. We get busy.
And Mrs. B, Mrs. Bancroft
B is here. This is my lovely lady. She's saying hello.
Let us not forget.
Blue isn't here. I don't know where he is. He might be doing something else, but that's okay. We will continue on. All right, all right, all right. So everyone who's familiar with my show knows what I like to do here at this early hour, this early time, is just kind of get to know a little bit about who we're talking to. So we're talking to Michael and Caroline, and they've got this crazy looking book. But before we go into it, why don't you guys tell us a little bit about how you got into comics, or where are you coming from with this?
Well, we've both been fans of comics for long time. Since childhood. We read kind of different stuff initially. I used to read kind of like a lot of Marvel and DC stuff. Caroline read more kind of UK-based kind of anthology comics that were going around at the time. But we kind of, when we met we started to introduce each other to the kind of material we loved, and we kind of fell in for the Vertigo stuff for the most part. When we met, that was kind of the big thing at the time. Stuff like Invisibles and I think Doom Patrol and Preacher, books like that. So it was like kind of the more mature readers type of stuff that was going around at the time. Watchmen, of course, and Dark Knight.
Yeah, is Judge Dredd from the UK?
Yeah, that's that was that's still going actually. Yeah, we're still big fans of Judge Dredd, but more kind of the older titles, the stories from round about the 80s, and I think actually 2000 AD it was started to cash in on the Star Wars craze at the time, but it did it really amazingly well. It really had its own identity back then. So yeah, although the stories were set in the States, it had a very British vibe.
It does, yeah. It has its own feel to it, doesn't it?
I actually have some Scavengers comics that Judge Dredd was often in from Europe. Yeah.
Yeah, I loved those.
Judge Dredd is my absolute favourite, as well as Dan Dare. And I was into comics when I was young, but then I met Mike after university, and that's when I got into it again, really, because he had the same interest, and he had loads and loads of comics, which I hadn't had because I'd been kind of travelling around a bit, and they were all in my kind of mother's cupboard at home.
If only more women picked their men because of the comic book collection.
How big's your collection?
Well, basically, that was one of the introductions.
It's the ideal quality, I think, in any man. I think what it should be for a woman. But I think I got very lucky.
It's not the size of the collection that matters; it's the quality.
Yeah,
and
it was definitely the case with me. I couldn't afford too many of the kind of the stack boxes, but
it was also closely scrutinized, though.
Yeah.
Did you, Caroline? Did you check out how well he looked after them? Is that a factor for you, or it's just more the titles that he has there?
It's more the titles, I think. I mean, he is he's really kind of exacting about books and comics. He tends to keep things very neatly. So yeah, that wasn't an issue. And if I'm just reading a paperback and I don't, and I let the page bend or something, no, I get hell for that.
Yeah,
very neat as I am.
Yeah,
Blue Samurai has
welcome.
Hey, Blue Samurai, what's your avatar there? Oh, nice.
Oh, very cool.
There you go.
It reminds me of something.
Hey. You might be a bit familiar with that.
I just pulled that together.
Oh, very nice.
That's wicked. Thank you.
Wish I
okay. So very you're cool. You've got. Come on, you've got. We'll talk about this later. Look what we got. That looks like your book. Yeah, so all right, so you guys have met. It's after college. You're both into comic books, and yeah, what happens next? How did you get to here?
Well, it took us a while to realize that we both wanted to create, but it was something that I guess a lot of people talk about, but they don't necessarily take the plunge because it usually means you're going to have to complete. You're going to actually deliver, and so we used to talk a lot about what ideal comics, and movies and all kinds of stuff we'd like to see, because I guess we were kind of armchair critics ourselves. As much as we enjoyed them, then we became more analytical, I guess, as well as, the years go by, you start to realize, oh, not everything's perfect. There may be like tweaks that we would have liked to have seen, or maybe sequels that never occurred. When they did, they seem to be kind of like not what we envisaged. So we kind of figured we could do that ourselves instead.
It took a while, though, because I had a kind of corporate career in my earlier life. I worked for a global company, so it just took time for us to get around to actually doing it as well and getting some ideas together.
It's when you start and you're staring kind of into the abyss. There's so much work ahead of you, and it is overwhelming at a point, and you just got to start kind of laying down the foundations and just move from there. And yeah, I know that feeling very well that you're describing there. It does take a long time to kind of get the thing rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. Or the computer screen.
I mean, if you're interested, how we actually got started and this is basically the first project we've ever done together, but it took us a while to realize that my little scribbles and my doodles of these characters, or very early iterations of them. They were, they're going to go to waste if we didn't actually do something with them, if we didn't commit them to a book. So it was Caroline's idea really to say, why don't you take the first step of creating a script, hone it down and have something, for these characters to inhabit, give them, flesh them out. And I was like, I love the idea of it, but I didn't really feel I could do that on my own. So I did ask for the help. And Caroline, she does have experience. She's been kind of writing her own kind of short stories and stuff, but never really kind of tried to get them out there. But we kind of figured together we could strengthen each other's abilities a bit, as long as, we're kind of open to advice, and a bit of critique. Fortunately, we were with each other for the most part.
Yeah, for the most part.
So we had a script first.
Yeah, you can be, at least you two can be very brutally honest with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, sometimes you have to be.
Yeah.
And we have had the odd, shall we say, argument or two. But yeah, we do work together easily, and it gets easier, I think, as you go along as well.
Yeah, you smooth out the rough edges, in a kind of that creative part of a relationship over time. You start to realize, you can take away the person from the actual work. You don't have to kind of figure it's a personal kind of attack or anything when somebody says, I don't particularly like this character or where the direction this part of the story is going, or can we jettison this or that. It's all for the good of the final story, the final product.
And so have you got a background in art, Michael?
Yeah, I've got a background in graphic design, and it's
I'm coming across that a lot, actually. A lot of graphic designers getting into comic books. I'm a graphic designer as well. So here we go. We're two Michaels, graphic designers, making a comic. Have you made one before?
No, I've done a few kind of like zine type of things, but nothing that I've tried to get published or anything like that, really. I've done graphic illustration for a few advertising agencies, but I've never done anything in terms of a story or anything like that. So
yeah, that's all right. That's what Comicsgate is all about. Giving people a shot for the first time, and seeing how it goes. And it's funny. 5 years ago, your campaign would have been one of the biggest. This would have been an amazing result to see 2,500. So yeah, it's really encouraging that you guys are coming in new and and you're already here, and you've is this your first month?
Yeah,
it's so, cool. So
we want to see how things turn out, within the this final week. It's going to be pretty interesting. So we got the option to extend, but it's nothing worth thinking about seriously until maybe we come to the end and
see how it goes, really.
I understand exactly. Absolutely. All right. Okay. So and when did you start this? When did you start working on this book? How long has it been kind of in the works?
Couple of years ago.
It was really 2016, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was like when we first started coming up with the characters. That was like, it was a lot of fun, but when we started committing to the actual script, so yeah, around about 2016 or so, that and then the comic itself properly, that was maybe around about a year or two back when we actually started doing the comic properly in terms of like sequentials. That was also pretty difficult because we hadn't done it before. We we were quite comfortable in terms of writing a script for it, but when it actually came to committing it to drawing it, we realized that it's one thing to say such and such is happening. It's like, imagine like writing a script for the screen, and you've got the kind of like all kinds of action going on at the same time. A director would have to cut that down and allow people to take it all in, as opposed to all happening at once. So we had to be careful with that.
Well, you take full credit. Mike did all the artwork, the penciling, the inking, and the colouring. He had a flatter to help him, but the rest is all him.
Yeah, I know that pain all too well. But there are positives and negatives to it. So it's very impressive, Michael, that you've done all this yourself, because it is a really visually stunning book. And I know exactly what you're saying. There's certain things in a still image that you obviously can't really portray very, at least you can try, but sometimes it gets a bit clunky. There's certain things you can do, like movies and whatever, the screen, the TVs. You can do certain things with time and things slowly moving and stuff. But in a comic, you do have limitations that you do only kind of run into when you actually try and draw it, and you think, oh, hang on, how's this going to work?
Exactly.
But
those limitations, they can work in your favor, but you kind of like need to learn to work with them instead of kind of fighting them. So so in the end, it kind of turned out all right, but it was a learning curve for sure.
I know that learning can all too well. Hey, Ascension Cinema is here. He is hailing and thanking me for my consistency. Well, thank you, Ascension Cinema. And I have got to send you things. I know I'm slacking. I just really, I'm trying to find my feet still after putting out that cartoon. It kind of knocked me on my ass for like a full couple of weeks. But I will get back to you. So thank you so much for being here. I saw you tweet it out as well, and that's cool. And Z-Ross is here. Arvo, yeah, good Arvo, mate. Z-Ross is another Aussie, and we love him here. And he's just showing off to you guys that we're just sitting nicely and comfortably at 1 o'clock in the afternoon while you guys are trying to keep your eyelids up at 4 a.m. in the morning. But
That's right.
we've got some people here now, so let's why don't you tell us a little bit about what Mortal Worlds is, and I'll scroll down so we can check out this art as we go, because this art really helps tell the story.
So you can probably tell this is a kind of like a sci-fi type of comic. It's not particularly grounded or anything like that. So it's kind of like
action
set in
sci-fi,
a parallel kind of world, really. So it anything goes in terms of, we've got kind of superhero types, we've got robots, we've got sword and sorcery. So it's a kind of like a clash of these different genres, really. So I guess there's a bit of Lord of the Rings and the Matrix in there. There's a bit of Star Wars. I don't know if you remember Joe Maduro's Battle Chasers. That was a kind of like something I was a fan of as well. From back in the Image days, I think
I don't know. I don't know if I'm familiar with that, or at least I don't remember the name.
So yeah, there was that kind of like stuff where you'd get to kind of knights with swords, kind of side by side with machine gunners, and I love that kind stuff. Of like imagery. So we got the main protagonist here is a guy called Cade Saiga, and so he's the guy in the red top there. He's this kind of he's the swordsman. He's a wisecracking special forces guy, really. Initially, when you first meet him, normally he's been sent around the world to mop up all kinds of military trouble spots. But recently he's kind of screwed up quite badly. He's failed to capture a fugitive who tried to blow up his commander's home base. And so they're really pissed with him, and they sent him on what they thought was a one-way mission to get rid of him. As a kind of a forfeit, they sent him to retrieve this sword that their drones have discovered was lying out there, kind of just like...
is that what he's carrying there?
Yeah, the one he's carrying there. And they figured, well, we want to study this sword, but there's no way he's going to bring it back. But he managed to do it. He managed to come out of the kind of like the wasteland out there, brought it back to the lab, to their amazement. But also, inconveniently for him, he's been followed back by, turns out it had an owner. It was a kind of a resting place, and it was concealing this kind of giant, kind of armored knight character that you see there, called the Skull Bale. And he's a very kind of imposing figure. He's got this kind of like glowing visor you can see above his mouth, which fires kind of like this death ray as well. He's practically invincible, and he wants that sword back. But not only that, he is quite taken with the idea of taking this world for himself, which he wasn't aware existed. So it's kind of double trouble for Cade as well. The commanders, they're like, we're out of here, we're not helping you. And he's tried to defend himself against this being with the blade, but it doesn't work out well for him. He is completely out of his depth. He's unprepared. And that saboteur that he was trying to capture earlier actually comes back for him because now there's a possibility he can help. The whole reason why the base was under attack in the first place was because they're involved in all kind of dark occult activity. And so this being, the Skull Bale, he's kind of the the herald, if you like, a little bit like an evil Silver Surfer. So he's got a master who's about to come into the world as well. So it's going to get quite Lovecraftian. There'll be a lot of action and stuff, but the heroes, our protagonists, they're not really cut out for this. You know, they've got to kind of like they figure their way through this because they're outgunned, they're outnumbered, and you know, there's no backup coming really.
Every single panel in this looks like it just gets worse and worse for the hero.
Like, in a nutshell.
Yeah. Anytime he gains an inch, he loses a mile. It's that kind of deal.
And it looks like he's meant to be the beast that keeps the boulder rolling forward. Like if he fails, then everything fails. So
that's definitely, I think, the impression he feels he's under. But it's kind of Sisyphean task. Yeah, it's a big task.
How was this conscious? How did you come onto this look? This is very unusual, and you must know that. I've never really seen anything like this before in terms of just even the line art. It's obviously very highly stylized, and you know, it reminds me a bit of who does Sovereign? Do you know who does that book?
Andrew
Huerta?
Andrew Huerta, yeah. So it's highly stylized, and then you've just got these. It's really incredible how you've gotten all these colors, the different colors, to gel and work together. And
every panel, you have something a little bit different going on, and it flows. It works.
I wouldn't be brave enough to try this.
Yeah.
This is too many colors to me. I'd freak out about it. They need to kind of match more together, but somehow it works so well, and it really it's kind of part of the story in that it's a sort of a subtext for me. Like I kind of get straight away in an instant what kind of story I'm reading, what kind of
The colors are, I guess, almost a character in itself, really.
Yeah.
I worked for a while trying to, learn from painters like Simon Bisley and Frank Frazetta. You know, they also had, a pretty, distinctive style, which was like a lot of color that's kind of like works. It's complementary, but there's a lot there, and I guess it gives you this hyper-real kind of sense to it. It's like it's almost a bit surreal to look at, but hypnotic. And I wanted to see what would happen if I tried to do the same kind of thing, but in my own way. And it took quite a bit of experimentation, because I was building up a palette originally that I was going to say, although there's a lot of different colors in here, they're going to be very distinct values, distinct shades, and I'm only going to use those. So they kind of do repeat themselves, almost like motifs. So it's given it this kind of distinctive look, I think.
I can already tell you're going to have fun figuring out printing this in CMYK.
Yeah,
it's gonna be a very interesting journey. It is doable. I know that. I've got experience in pre-press and all that sort of stuff. It's just gonna be a fun journey for you, because there's some wild colors in there, man.
It's the difficulties that make the victory all the better.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true.
Yeah.
I like the style because it's so. I want to say it's a little bit squiggly, but it's solid. Whereas other things I've seen people liquefy their.
Put that on your advertisement. It's squiggly but solid.
And then just like people put critique lines are like 4 stars. Squiggly but solid. Blue Samurai.
That actually sums me up perfectly.
Hey, we've got Poland turned up. How you going, Poland?
Hail Poland.
Let's see what Poland.
So much fanfare, yes.
There we go. Lovely. CG UK. Hail, absolutely.
Oh, that's
hail.
Great. Good. Well done.
Thank you. Just for y'all.
He works hard. He works hard for his.
That's
his
a
avatar.
native in the Avatar too. She's a UK native herself.
Let's not get Poland started on Lara Croft. We'll have to save that for another show.
Michael,
Everything
were you-
crosses. Everything intersects, Michael.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Blue?
can we scroll down and take a look at Cade, because we're talking about colors, and
Which one's that? Where's
and
that?
the other Michael, a little further. The other Michael said he had taken a lot of cues from painters. There it is. So part of the squiggly there is look at the way he's made to look a little dirty, a little shaded, and a little highlighted with the way these. Oh, you can't see my mouse moving. I'm sorry. But just how many different colors make up the pants, and yet it works.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
probably
Or the
that's my
shirt.
favorite part of the process. Really, it really all seems to come alive to me when you start to see all these different values emerge, and they start to kind of like have this 3D look to them.
Mm-hmm.
And Caroline, you wrote this, yeah? You wrote this
We
story?
co-wrote it together, yeah.
Co-wrote it. Okay. And what did you think when he was like, check this out? I've got this guy here, and it's going to be red and brown and yellow and green and blue and aqua, and you're like, oh, are you sure? Or are you just like, you have 100% trust? It was all going to work out in the end.
Did. At first, I would find myself questioning and saying, you're not going to be able to translate that onto the page. But I trusted quite quickly because it's such a painstaking process. And it seems sometimes like each panel was taking absolutely ages. But it's well worth it when you see it all together. I mean, it really is. It's, as you probably know yourself, he'd layer colour on colour really painstakingly. But yeah, I came to trust him absolutely just because I thought the results were so great.
They're so unique as well. You know,
It's
there's
hard
nothing else out there that looks like this. I've never seen anything before.
It's
Although
hard
it
to
does
argue with the results.
That's it. The results speak for themselves. It does remind me of things. Who was saying it has a kind of a, was that you, Bandito? It has a kind of a Duke Nukem feel to it. Is that you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It totally reminds me of old school Duke Nukem and well, I mean, the protagonist having that square head and everything. But I mean,
how do you feel about that, Michael? That it
Oh,
reminds
yeah,
us a bit of Duke Nukem?
absolutely. Duke Nukem, I didn't really play it, but I think the artwork, had a kind of big impact to me at the time. I was a huge fan of actually the artist who did, the covers.
Yep.
Video game cartridges. Back in my day, I was also had into 16-bit games, so I was a big fan of Contra. Or I don't know if you know Contra.
Yep.
Probotector.
definitely has that too.
So there was those guys that kind of had a big impact on me. I guess even those characters were largely based on people like Arnold Schwarzenegger is Dutch Schaefer, from the Predator movies, and even Rambo and Ivan Drago, all these kind of 80s kind of guys who were kind of much larger than life. I think
A man's
really
man.
seen people built like that. Yeah, very kind of imposing kind of characters, and kind of like perfect fodder for templates for these games that came soon afterwards.
I'm not.
So
Yeah, I'm looking
what-
through this. I'm not seeing any soy in these pages. This is a lot. There's a lot of testosterone and.
This is how boys became men back in the 90s. I'm telling you, playing Duke Nukem, Contra, it was like these were the heroes we wanted to emulate. A lot of creators right now are talking about bringing back the 90s, but this speaks to me. Like I can feel it kind of reverberating in my chest. It's like, yes.
Yeah,
So,
I definitely wanted the
Thank
power
you.
to kind of just leap off the page. I guess it's kind of like this deal where, a lot of people, they will say, oh, the boys, they wouldn't naturally gravitate to, these kind of action kind of franchises left to their own devices. But anytime you actually do leave them, they get to pick what toys they want to play with, what kind of games they want to play. It always tends to go for, the power and action fantasies. Because I think that's just, how, the male psyche is wired. It's to defend and protect. And, there's a lot of women as well, who enjoy the same thing, but
Yeah, absolutely.
but not maybe as many. And this is just, I think, is just a natural thing for people to be into, to action movies and fantasy movies. It's what audiences want to see, if especially male audiences. And I'm certainly one of those as well.
Well, it's what we wanted to see, isn't it? We tried to write what we wanted to see, really.
It's what I've always been into, and luckily Caroline's always been a big fan of that stuff as well. So
it's what the
80s movies and
it's what the mainstream kind of just somehow. Well, we know how it happened, but what they forgot is that the women as well enjoy this stuff too. There were always women in comics, not as many men. There were always women on the page. There were always women behind the scenes writing and drawing, and there were always women reading, and they liked to read the same stories, even if they weren't reading them in exactly the same way. So changing it to kind of basically strip it of all masculinity. That's not just insulting to men, but it's boring for women as well. Women
completely, it is.
I mean, one movie that doesn't get I think enough love, but was quite prescient in terms of the age we're living in now, is RoboCop 2. I always prefer the first movie, but in terms of what Frank Miller was doing in kind of amping up the political correctness at the time, for like when, for example, they thought that Robo was a bad influence to the kids, and they wanted to make him cuddly and soften him up, and he'd go around doing kind of like social outreach programs and stuff like that. And but the crime rate was absolutely skyrocketing as a result of him. So that always kind of made me laugh. And when we actually started to reach an age where this was starting to become true, really. I was thinking back and thinking, wow, some people actually did see this coming, because, of course, all of these think tanks and all of these focus groups and everything, it's like life imitating art, almost. I think a lot of people just, when they're asked for their opinion and they're brought into a kind of a group like that, a lot of the time they'll just say what they think they're required to say. They won't really be honest in terms of, I think that, society actually can decide for itself, what kind of direction it wants to go. It doesn't need to be kind of steered by, by everybody who wants to
especially the kind of people who are trying to steer it. They're the least,
Exactly.
They're the people that we want least to be doing the steering. Inexorable Word Nerd is here. Hal, Inexorable Word. I always struggle through your name. Inexorable Word Nerd. Thanks for coming, buddy. It's funny you should mention RoboCop 2, because last Saturday or Sunday or sometime at the end of an 8.5-hour stream, we were left sitting there drunk, and a few people were asleep, and we were talking about RoboCop and Predator, and we were really getting into it. So it's just funny that you bring it up now. Blue's laughing because he had to kind of sit there and listen through it all, and he was sober. Why don't you run us quickly through all the characters on this cover here, because this is really cool, and I really love your masks. You got some cool masks going.
I guess that sometimes a part of my thinking in creating these characters, I mean, I'll get into kind of like what their kind of personalities like in a second, but in terms of their design, I think it was Matt Groening who said that part of his thinking process in terms of how he designed The Simpsons was that he took a lot of cues from Walt Disney in terms of making their silhouettes very distinctive. He wanted them to be recognizable just from their silhouettes. I guess in a way you could say that about certain other things as well, like probably Star Wars. There were plenty of characters in there that
Indiana Jones with the hat, right?
Exactly, and that's, I guess, a way of it's a branding thing as much as anything else, but it kind of sticks in your mind, and so that was part of the thinking with the masks and stuff. But so like, let's say taking it from the top with that guy, with the big head there, if you put it that way.
This guy.
Could I actually jump in and tell you what I'm seeing? Because maybe just from the outsider's point of view, it might. So I'm looking at this, and first of all, we got this menacing force going across the top of the comics. You have obviously the main villain. He's some kind of Cobra Commander, some sort of I'm going to get to the goal before you do kind of guy. You got his main henchman in the background who's kind of like your ninja sniper type, and you got his main squeeze over on the right hand side, who she loves his ambition. She loves following him. She wants him to be successful, but he doesn't pay her enough attention. Obviously, she's a little bit. She seems like she's
looking up into the distance. Yeah.
That's right. And he's just like, I need this power. And she's like, yes, let's get this power for you. And then he's like, who are you again? and then we got the main muscle for the villains at the in the middle there. He's obviously going to be the main villain, the main guy, the main obstacle to overcome for
the big boss, kind of like the henchman.
The henchman. But and then for our heroes, we got good old American Captain America, Duke Nukem. He's no wilting flower. He's going to stand up to all comers, and he'll kick you in the nuts just as soon as he'll fight you. Make sure that he fights you with honor.
He's no slouch.
Yeah. And then just beside him, of course, we got his main squeeze, beautiful and deadly as well, but still the princess that needs to be saved, which every kid needs to have a version of that as they're growing up. And then on the other side of him, we got the old crotchety guy who just doesn't want to be there. He's with you to the end, but not by choice.
He's getting too old for this shit.
Yeah,
He's the hard-boiled detective who wants to be out of the book.
Yeah, definitely too old for this shit.
How did he go?
All right, so how do I do? What are my marks?
No, I'd say maybe 75%.
Dang, well, that's pretty good.
That's a testament to your art.
I definitely, I like where you were going with all of those. Yeah, there's definitely a bit of truth in all of that with these characters. I guess the main difference would be that the guy at the top is not a villain. He's actually, I don't know if you remember that saboteur who the main character Cade was after but failed to capture because he assumed that he was just like a bad guy, like a terrorist kind of figure. It turns out that he was definitely like a more heroic type who understood what the stakes were in terms of like the evil figures that Cade was unwittingly working for. So I guess he's a little bit more like of a younger Ben Kenobi figure, if anything, the guy in the mask.
Okay.
But he's got his own deal going on as well, though. He's not just like any kind of like angel either. He's cursed to actually wear that mask by an evil sorcerer, and he has no idea what he actually looks like. He's been kind of mind wiped, and he can't take that mask off, and he's kind of like furious about that. It's kind of the bane of his existence, and he wants to find who condemned him to this life, and also to find somebody who can actually get that damn thing off him, so he can actually get a look at himself, and maybe have a life as well.
That's cool.
And, but that's his own
super
personal
cool.
deal.
That's a great story.
Michael, what this really reminds me of, looking at it, it reminds me of, I don't know if you ever saw the artwork of the early first and second edition of Warhammer and Necromunda from Games Workshop.
I'm vaguely familiar with the Warhammer, yeah. I've never played it, so but it's more the art that came with those that really fascinated me. It still does.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's where that whole theme of grim dark comes from. When people mention grim dark, it's kind of they're combining technology with kind of gothic aesthetics to make
that's why I always loved that aspect of it particularly.
Yeah, I see a little bit of that here, and also kind of reminds me of Wasteland. If you ever played those games,
I haven't played that one, no.
But yeah, especially the guy with the hat and the the big gun and everything. It seems like something straight out of one of those.
So what else was different, Michael, in these characters?
So you see the woman in the white on the top right there. She's actually the estranged wife of the protagonist of Cade Saga. She's actually more aware of what's been going down in this laboratory. He's been being protected than he ever was.
I could sense something disgruntled in her appearance.
Look at how she's. This is body language.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
She's
kind of
pointing
like
away from him.
she's more like a kind of a villainess. The story starts with, at least, but over time, I think that she kind of really learns as well uh, what what these commanders of this base have really been up to. And so her deal was more kind of archaeology, but her expertise has also been kind of exploited, to unearth this dark Lovecraftian entity. So again, she kind of ends up regretting the faith that she's put in these people. So there may be reconciliation, in the future between her and Kate. But
Maybe
Ooh.
not.
I won't give too much away there, though.
The way she's presented
Everyone's
here,
like,
though,
shut up.
Yeah,
the way she's presented here, though, is very much I have my own agenda.
yeah,
Yeah, she's looking off
yeah.
to the
That's my
side.
idea. Was
She's like,
that all of these characters were kind of like, although they'd have overlapping motives, for the most part, it's kind of like it's begrudging, and yeah, they definitely have their own kind of individual agendas as well.
I could tell too. She was being used and abused by dark forces.
Well, in their own relationship, I guess Cade was always kind of like gallivanting off to all these trouble spots, and kind of dispatching.
But
all
without
kinds of
giving anything away, that is
Yeah.
really insightful what you just said.
Oh yeah,
Really.
yeah, yeah.
it's always
Arts
funny
imitating
when
life,
someone
so-
stumbles upon like a key part of your character and that you haven't really revealed yet, but they're just picking it up from the way they're drawn or
Yeah,
framed or whatever.
It's really nice,
that's
though.
actually my favorite part of the whole process. It's
Yeah.
like when you start hearing back, when people start getting immersed and also coming up with their own idea of interpretations of what you're doing. It's like it's making this world kind of seem more alive. You're sharing it and people kind of sharing it back, and it seems to grow from that. Yeah.
I like what Bandito did there. I like the fan theories. Obviously, he's
Yeah.
just working off one image, but when after they've read, the first issue or something, they come back and say, "I reckon this is what's going to happen,"
Yeah.
and you see how close it is. And then you always got to say, "Oh, I can't really say yes or no." Just
Well, yeah. I mean, this is how the book kind of originated anyway. It was us coming up with our own fan theories about other works, and then thinking, well, if they're not going to use those ideas, we might as well do it.
Yeah.
How
Very well.
okay, it's a 48-page story, cardstock cover. So does that mean it's going to be perfect bound, like it's going to have a spine?
No, not
Or-
yet.
not yet.
We would like to get maybe a stretch goal where that would be possible, but
Yep.
we haven't announced that just yet. So that might be
Okay.
an extra one. But this is still going to be a stapled issue.
How much of the book is completed?
The entire book both books are actually completed. So both the
Ooh-wee.
graphic novel, which is the 48-page full color book, and also the Art of Mortal Worlds, which has a lot of pretty exciting stuff in there about all of the visual ideas that went into creating this book, and a bit of a few articles in there as well that might be of interest. It's a nice
book,
little
though.
read.
I really
That's
like
32-page full color as well. So that's the featured perk. So we, I guess we would recommend that people get that, because you'd be missing out if you do get the graphic novel. You'll have a great read, and we think you really will enjoy the art. But I think it will whet your appetite to see more of what went into the creation of it. So we do have the option as well of buying the Art of Mortal Worlds on its own, if you're so inclined, if you're a fan of concept art books, and you can get the graphic novel on its own. But the featured perk, I think, seems to have been the most popular one that people wanted to get a slice of of both of those.
Yeah. Bandito, I just muted you because your keyboard is friggin' loud, man. It's louder than Samurai
now Blue's
Train.
going.
I can hear that. I wondered what that was.
Keyboard warrior.
Mute all of them. Michael, go on the purge.
Mute them all.
Okay,
Let
so
God
you
sort
can
it out.
either get both the book, or the art book, or the graphic novel.
Yeah.
That's what we got going here. And did you
Yeah.
notice? I don't know what kind of works out for you. It doesn't work out for me. Indiegogo just made it so that it doesn't matter what you set up here, like what you set as your currency. They're now going to put the kind of what would you call it, the native currency of the campaign as the highlighted, and give you a little thing underneath. Whoa, what just happened there? Whoa.
Yeah, I
What's going on?
noticed that. It doesn't really
Don't do
work
that.
for me either.
Fortunately, I can do an instant kind of translation, if you like,
Well, it's rough, yeah.
in
'cause
terms
it's
of
changed.
dollars. If most of the viewers are in the States at the moment, so the books together, the two, the two book bundle comes out at $40.
Oh yeah,
The
it says
art
it
of
here.
book,
It does say it here underneath.
you got it there, yeah.
Just
So yeah,
Yeah.
it's just what they've done now
It's
is they've made
print.
it so that so I know
That's
it
cool.
says euro here. It looks fine for you because you get like a different symbol and everything.
Yeah.
But in Australian dollars, if I go to say the Lucent, if that's going to show up, no, it's not. Hold on, let me just stop streaming there. Sorry, here. So now, yeah, it just says this big $100, and I don't know. People might not really care to read the AUD, so it's
What comes
actually priced now at $69 US. But it says 100 up there, and so the book it says 38. I don't know. I don't know if that's helpful. I think if you set it to US dollars on the site, it should just show US dollars. But anyway,
yeah. So they don't give the option there for you to display.
not
to
anymore. Not anymore. They've changed that. This happened just then.
I was going to say, was that today?
That's today.
Yeah, just today.
That's a big UI change.
Yeah, and
Actually,
we were talking to them as well because when you go into when you click on the thing, and you go and you see the shipping, it'll automatically revert to whatever the shipping is. So it'll automatically be shipping in euros. And that's that's fine for euros because it's actually less than US dollars, so it's not scary. But for Australian dollars, or if you're in another country and you have it in bigger dollars, it can scare people off. Exactly, and it's the big number. The big number is the Australian dollars, and then it's a tiny little in grey number underneath.
It's true. People price very carefully, so to actually have good impact, first impressions. So
yeah,
it's kind of strange that they wouldn't have necessarily consulted the users of the service.
We had a bunch of like Aussies have reached out to them, and they said, "Oh, look, it's just too kind of hard baked into the code. It would be too difficult to change at this point." And then, all right, thanks. Yeah, like I've already gotten a couple of emails saying, "Oh, I want to back your book, but the shipping is too high. I can't afford $20-something." And I was like, "It's not. It's only $12." And then I said, "Oh, you're looking at the
Aussie.
Yeah, in the Aussie dollars or something." So anyway, off track. Yeah, so that's cool. I like how you've kept it simple. I like the simple campaigns. It's just you can get this, that, or that, and
we
sometimes it becomes it becomes a bit too much. You don't really know. It gets confusing. Which one you're going to get? And I like you've got just one comic, one art book. That's the CG way. Let's keep it clear and simple.
I like how you're offering the art book on its own. Just because some people are like, well, I don't know about the comic, but I like the art. Please like the art. Actually, in fact, I'm glad you're offering the art book at all, because I just realized some of these pages we're looking at will have words on them later.
Oh yeah. It's all finished and lettered as well. So these aren't necessarily the final pages that you're seeing. These are just art examples, but there's not too much dialogue. It's not peppered like it's not like a kind of like you don't have to crawl through each page or anything like that. There's dialogue where it's needed really, but it's it's pretty stripped down. But the dialogue we're very actually pleased with. Caroline had a very big hand in that, especially in terms of getting it to the point where it's snappy, but kind of like it still keeps you in the loop of what's going on.
Is
there's no info dumps or anything like that really.
Cheryl Rodriguez, is that letterer? Who's that there?
She's our flatter. She's a fantastic flatter actually. She's been really helpful to us because this color work that you see, after a while I realized to keep up the pace that I was going to need someone who could at least do some separations for us, to keep things kind of like flowing, so I could just get on with the task of
I'm looking to conscript my 8-year-old daughter into becoming my flatter. I said, I'll pay her $10 Australian a page,
Yeah.
because usually the
That's
price
good.
is $10
Great idea.
US.
They're worth
But
their
yeah,
weight in gold, I think.
Yeah, they are. She would have a really quick turnaround as well. She was really, really reliable.
people are
We'll
the
use
and
her
I don't know.
again.
People think, oh, I can do flatting, and because it is, anyone who's not familiar with what flatting is, it's just basically you get the line art, and you block all the little bits out. So this guy here, will be one color, and then you probably need whatever his little thing colored in as well, and bits in the background will be colored, and then the colorist will go in and color it, make sure it's all do the proper kind of color up. But the way if every single colorist had to go in and kind of block out all the little bits in flat color, that would it takes a long time. Flatting takes a long amount of time, even though it's a pretty mundane, not very creative job. It's it's a vital part of making a comic, and a lot of people think they can do it, and they get things wrong, and it ends up becoming frustrating because you, as the colorist, then have to go in and kind of fix their work or work with them, and then you're spending all your time thinking, well, why did I pay for this when I'm just doing it myself?
Of course, hopefully, like any flatter that people get to work with, they'll have an eye for what's actually the color is generally meant to go there. They won't just necessarily be making it up on the fly just to keep it all separate. So definitely with the Cheryl, she paid a lot of attention to what the completed pages look like, the different colors of the characters and even backgrounds. So when it came to getting those fleshed out, it wasn't as much work as I was worried it's still going to be. She did a great job with that.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. If you find good people to work with, treat them well and stick with them, because they're hard to find, especially and people get busy and they have to move on to other things. El Argo wants to congratulate me on 1,000 backers. Wow, that's news. That's amazing.
Congratulations, that's awesome.
Like Poland said,
awesome.
1,000 subs, not backers. So yes,
Well, congratulations.
Still, we got almost 300 backers on the Lucent, which is insane. Yes, but he is referring to the 1,000 backers. So thank you. 1,000 subs. Oh my god, even I'm doing it now. 1,000 subs on this channel. So yeah, that's really cool. I think we've got a bit more than that now.
Tatsu points out that it's 1070.
1070. Wow. Yes. Thank you, Tatsunami. Thank you for coming, man.
It's fantastic.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to be up to 1,100 in short order at this rate. That's going to be cool. I remember always seeing like guys get to 1,000 subs on their channels, and just thinking, oh yeah, that's cool. Like one day we'll get there. You guys have a channel too, don't you?
We do, yeah. It's called Channel 0x. So we've been using it recently to do a little bit of promotion for Mortal Worlds, but also a few other people's projects, and also various takes on what Comicsgate can potentially become in the next few months and years as well. We've got high hopes that there'll be a lot more projects, and that there'll be even more variety in terms of like genres and stuff, and that more people are going to feel this is going to be the place to be, to feel part of an expansive family, and somewhere where it's just a great kind of almost like an arts lab, where anything, as long as you put first the demands of the customer, rather than kind of like trying to toe any kind of corporate line. This is where you want to be for independent creators. So
absolutely,
that's a large part of our channel.
Yeah, well, everyone, if you like the sound of that, go subscribe. Hopefully, someone will be able to pop the link in to your channel in the chat there. That would be really cool. Todd has
all one word. Sorry.
What's that? Sorry.
Channel 0x, all one word.
Okay. All right. Hopefully, someone will find. There you go. Smiling Bandito's on the job.
Oh, thank you.
And he very kindly muted himself to type that in with his extremely loud keyboard.
Don't banish me to the corner.
I know. Me. I feel I had to. They were saying some really cool stuff, and it was like.
I understand. I'm surprised you don't mute me 32% more times.
So Todd, thank you so much. You're the crocodile man. Look at that. I think that's a crocodile or some kind of the other ones in Asia. Oh yeah, you were that fateful. We remember you very well. 290 that pushed us over 15,000. So of course I'm going to always remember you. Unfortunately, just after that, the Aussie dollar went up a little bit, and I got pushed back down. So we'd already done the 15K celebration stream. I'd already changed the banner. I'll show you here, like this thing here. If I scroll down, I'd already changed and uploaded. Where is it? Oh, there it is. There, unlocked. And then I went back and looked at it, and it was back under again. Thank you, surging Australian dollar. But yeah, so yeah, thank you very much, man. We're back over 15K again, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Well done. Congratulations.
Really cool.
Thank you so much.
Back to Mortal Worlds. Before we scroll up, other tab. Yeah, there we go. Before we scroll up, I did notice one thing. Now, Michael, you were the colorist, correct?
Yeah.
After the letter, a lot of light sources are shown as glowing in your color, and one thing will affect the colors of everything else in the room. And that was really interesting. Sometimes there's a bit of a haze, so you get this idea there's a lot of dust and smoke in the air, but that's a lot of attention to detail. Just wanted to compliment you on that.
Oh yeah, thanks very much. Yeah, sometimes I didn't pay too much attention in terms of, like, let's say there might be a light source, but it's not casting too much of an impact on the the foreground and stuff like that. Other times it would be more pronounced. It really would depend on how pronounced I wanted the action to be. So there's a bit of a to and froing between how much that would come into play, but it's all about making the whole page work, really, for me.
Yeah, and just onto that, fantastic segue. You're reading my mind. Not only the colors, see what he's done here. Other small attention to detail. He's got the punch coming in here, and then the fist is down over the next panel. So it's like leading you through. It's like this is all happening in one continuous movement. Bang, bang, bang. Punch, gut punch. It's all it's doing it as well here. It's just sort of it's all part of one continuous kind of fight, and it's those things as well that just add that little bit of extra je ne sais quoi to the page.
It's comics books 101.
It is, yeah, it's great stuff.
So let's go back up to the top and take a peek.
Yeah, see if we've made any.
Oh, I hope we have
advances.
I was a first day backer, Michael, so I've got a lot of high hopes
for you. Whew. Pressure's off. You got it back up.
There we go. You've made some fans here for sure.
Oh, thank you.
You guys are
nice,
you guys are on your way to 2.5K USD.
Yeah. Oh, that is exciting.
So, do you have any plans now for the next 6 days? Do you have the shows lined up, and do you have a campaign closing?
We have a few people we're talking with, but we're still waiting for confirmation about getting a slot on their shows. So there's some pretty interesting people. Kind of various audience memberships. Some people kind of like they're more kind of people who kind of back and support these kinds of books. The kind of more action-oriented books. There are others who kind of like they do more of a variety of a kind of show. But they're all very kind of like interesting people, and so hopefully people will be catching up with them. But we don't want to announce these just yet or anything, but we'll keep people posted on Twitter and updates to make sure that hopefully people can catch them. And if there's any new announcement, we may make a couple more new announcements about stretch goals. That would be pretty exciting. So looks like we're coming up close to maybe time to be able to do that as well.
Yeah, and a long stream on the last day.
For those that are listening, then if you need to hear more about this book to kind of make up your mind, make sure that you're following his Twitter so that you know when he is going to be on, when they are going to be on other shows. And if you are already a backer and a fan, make sure you show up so that you can show the support and get other people excited to back this book as well.
That's how the word gets out. Because a lot of the time, it's just getting the word out. It really is. I mean, that's kind of 90% of it.
Absolutely. And are we in our first month, or is this a second month? And
First
are you
month.
planning?
Yeah, so we're coming up to the end of the first 30 days.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we still got time to make this really work for you.
Yep.
Okay. Well, if you don't have any plans when you do your closeout, maybe we can look to make something
Yeah, we're
work.
getting around that time, aren't we? Where
Yeah. So
Thank you. Yeah, that'd be
That's
amazing.
let us
great.
know.
Thank you so much.
of course,
because I've been ever since I saw this book. I was like, I really wanted to kind of shout about it because, like I said, I mean, I've just been saying this is. I just love the unique look. It looks so much fun. It sounds like, I'm glad to hear that you put a lot of work into it. You guys are really cool, and it's just
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I mean, we've had so much fun creating this book, but it's been a lot of hard work as well. So seeing that people have enjoyed what we're doing, it's so awesome to see as well. And we can't wait to just get these books into people's hands, and get their feedback. See what they make of it as well.
Yeah, and anyone who's on the fence, you heard him earlier. He said that it's finished. The book, the work is done. So it's just a matter of getting the funds, and then printing it and getting it into your hands. So
yeah, and that's how CG works now. I mean, the idea of being ahead of the game and having those pages done, or showing that you're going to be close to completing the project, that's what's important. So kudos to you guys. I personally believe every project deserves to be seen, but every creator has to show that it deserves to be backed. And you guys have made me a believer. So
thanks so much.
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right, guys. We're coming on the hour. So thanks everyone for coming to watch and listen. Obviously, a huge, massive thank you to Michael and Caroline for sharing their story and their book with us on the show today.
Thank you, all of you.
No, thank you all very much. We really appreciate it.
So I've enjoyed it. It's been a real blast. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry I made you get up so early or late or whatever
That's
it is,
all
but
right.
I'm
This
kind
is
of
just
in
his lunch hour. This is like just his free time. He's like,
yeah, but I so look forward to this hour of the day. It's so much fun. Of course, Samurai, Poland, Bandito, the crazy typer. Thank you guys for popping in again and adding so much to this conversation. And of course, Hail the chat. You guys are all amazing.
Chat, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
Hail CG
Absolutely.
UK.
Yes, and Captain Fckhead was here earlier, and I do believe that I will be appearing on his channel pretty shortly. I think it's the 11th from memory. I'm going to have to go back and check my Twitter. So yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun.
We'll be in the chat for that.
Excellent. I'll look forward to seeing you there. Okay, guys. We'll go and check out Mortal Worlds. They got 6 days left here, so don't miss out, and we will see you all tomorrow.
cheers. Hail and well met.
No problem.
CG.
Thank you very much.